Everyone would like to have a little extra cash in their pocket, and 44 million Americans are actually being proactive about it. According to a new survey, that's the number of people in the U.S. with a side gig or a side hustle. For more now, we turn to Melody Hom from Yahoo Finance to talk about this. So according to Bankrate.com, 13% of Americans actually have a side job?
Yeah, 44 million Americans, as you just said. And of course, it skews to the millennials. 28% of millennials actually have a side hustle. And technology enables it. You know, you can be a Lyft driver after work. You can join TaskRabbit and or walk a dog. I mean, all of these things are very accessible to folks. And of course, the younger generation is really taking advantage of it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what's an example of a side hustle? Because I think for a lot of people, they might think of it as an extra part-time job, but not necessarily.
Yeah, so when we define side gig, it's for people who have full-time income and have the 9 to 5, but then decide to have that augmented income. A lot of people, like web designers, are really popular because they can go home and freelance, help work on their friend's site, maybe design wedding invitations, and all of that ends up accruing their annual income.
And can you make a lot of money with a side hustle?
Yeah, people are making thousands of extra dollars a month doing this. I mean, anecdotally, I have Lyft drivers all the time who are doing it on weekends, really hustling to make extra money for their family. With a baby on the way, they're trying to make sure that they're in a financially good place.
Right. There's got to be some things that you have to worry about, though. You have to look out for. I imagine a side hustle takes up a lot of time and energy.
Yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of job consultants are worried about, because they say that there's burnout. There's real burnout. There's already a lot of fatigue when you have a full-time job. So you can imagine that people who moonlight and are sleeping at 3 a.m. because they're working on something come into work not 100% and are really depleted of their energy. And there are potential conflicts of interest. And I think that's the number one thing that viewers should keep in mind. You have to talk to your manager or your HR manager to make sure that there isn't something, if it's a non-compete sort of situation. And especially with tech companies now, if you're starting a startup on the side, your main employer could possibly claim intellectual property rights, saying that you hatched this idea while you were at Google. And so making sure that you have all your ducks in a row is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I know in this profession, we can't just go out and sort of pick up gigs without getting approval, because part of the reason is we're also representing the company.
Exactly.
No matter where we go, and you know, the company wants to know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, you said if you make an extra grand a month, though, I mean, that can add up to be a lot of money in the end. Can that flip you into another tax bracket?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And for better or for worse, you might be depicted as wealthier, and you might end up having to pay more taxes. But don't try to get away with not filing for taxes, because the IRS can come and penalize you for back taxes, especially if you don't report it. So making sure that you have that in order, even though you might think, oh, it's just an extra couple $100s, you want to be proactive about it rather than reactive.
Okay, so the biggest things to consider when you're trying to embark on a side hustle: make sure you don't get burned out.
Yep. Make sure you talk to your employer and find ways where you can find passive income. For example, renting out your apartment, listing it on Airbnb, possibly getting into the stock market and buying dividend-paying stocks. That's something that, for people who don't want to be dedicating too much time and energy to a side hustle, but have the flexibility to, you know, dabble in these ventures, that's a great alternative to, say, walking a dog.
Great advice. Go out there and get your money. There's some money out there for you, right?
I want to get a side hustle right now, too.
Me too. Melody Hom, thank you.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Bright House Financial, established by MetLife.